And then the final thing that I'm going to go over here is how to combine part numbers and quantities to make sure that you are consolidating wherever possible. So here I have a relatively simple example. I've got a bill of material, and we're going to call it the alpha BOM and the beta BOM, which is right here, okay? And both of these are something that I want to combine so that I'm getting advantage of combined quantities. And what I've done is I've highlighted duplicate values right here. So you can see I do have some duplicates in my BOM. So for example, this part appears right here. This part appears right here. And so what I would want to do ideally is, rather than quoting 2 pieces here and 2 pieces here, I want to combine it, make it 4 pieces, and get the volume pricing for 4 instead of 2. So the way I would do this is, first thing I want to do is I want to highlight my data set like I always do. So I'm going to select all of that. And then I'm going to click on the Insert tab, and we're going to use pivot tables. And if you haven't used pivot tables before, it's something that is an extremely, extremely powerful tool within Excel to be able to consolidate data, group it, or filter it in really dynamic ways. The way we're going to do it today is we're going to consolidate by the manufacturer part number. So I'm going to click on Pivot Table right here. And instead of putting in a new worksheet, I'm just going to put it in the existing worksheet. I'm going to put it right over here. So it's telling me that this is going to be my table range right here. I'm going to click OK. And now it's given me a little dialog box that says, okay, here's my pivot table builder, and this is where my pivot table is going to end up. Now it's just a matter of building out what my table is going to have in it. So for example, I need to define what are going to be the rows, what are going to be the columns, and what are going to be the values within those columns. So the first thing I want to do is I want to have rows for manufacturer and manufacturer part number. So I'm going to click over here, and I can just drag and drop. So I'm going to drag manufacturer into rows, and it gives me all of my manufacturers right here. Second thing I want to do is drag my manufacturer part number and put it into rows. And now I've got, for each manufacturer, I've got all the manufacturer part numbers within it as well. And then the final thing I want to do is take the quantity and make that the value that I want to sum. So I'm going to drag that over here into values. And when I do that, now I should have the consolidated, it says sum of quantity over here. So let's take an example. I've got this Diodes Inc. part right here, which is 2N7002, and I've got a quantity of 2 and a quantity of 2. If I find the same part over here, you can see that it's got 4 in its place. Similarly, I could take this one as an example. I've got 5, and then I've got 3. So if I were to find that manufacturer down here, you can see I've got 5 and 3 equals 8. Okay, so it's consolidated that. Now this is not a format that might really work well for you. And so the other thing I want to point out is you can always reshape what the pivot table looks like. So I'm going to go into design over here. I'm going to change the report layout. So instead of this layout, I always prefer either the tabular layout or the outline layout. I'm going to click on tabular here so you can see an example of that. Okay, now I've got everything in a more stable table format, but I have these annoying little totals in the middle that are going to make my data really annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove subtotals. So it's going to say don't show subtotals right here. And now I've got it in a much cleaner data structure for my consolidated view. If, for example, I wanted to know what the BOM is that is using these part numbers, I could always put in a row for BOM. So I can go in here and I can say BOM, and now I've got it broken out. So again, let's find that Diodes Inc. part. You can see it's got this part number and then alpha and beta and 2 and 2. But I can always collapse this. So I can click this little minus sign right here and it turns it into plus and it consolidates it into 4. Or I can go over here into pivot table analysis. And I can just say collapse this field and it'll collapse it everywhere. I'm going to click collapse field and there you go. Now it's collapsed everywhere. It also gives me my grand total down here at the bottom, so I know I have 115 components. Other ways you could use this is if you had part classification, you could group it by different part classes and things like that. A lot of different dynamic options here in how you combine different things in a table structure. The only caveat to that is you do have to have it in a table structure like this. You can't have blank headers and blank cells in the middle. It has to be a clean data set for you to be able to work with it.